kitchen table, so I was trying to make some space beside.
Make some space for my big bitch ass. Yes, thank you.
Yep. Yes.
Good. So good seeing you. I think Mina is going to be present with nationals happening this weekend. I think she was doing someone's makeup, so that's fun. But before we get started, good luck, Garrett.
Good luck, Garrett.
Don't suck. No, I'm just kidding. He looks great. He looks
Yeah.
so good.
He's like peeled. I saw a picture
Peel.
on her stories yesterday of like his veins on veins.
Like, I need to show you guys how peeled Garrett is. Give me 1 second,
This
please.
is the Dick Skin Lean. That's what we're gonna.
Let me just, guys, are you ready for this? This is how peeled Garrett is, okay? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you how peeled this motherfucker is. Garrett, this is for you, brother. I know you don't watch the podcast, but like this is how peeled Jacoby got him. See
Yep.
that?
Yep.
That's what Garrett looks like right now.
Yep.
Peeled.
Accurate.
Eric will eat that later. It's fine.
Will not go to waste.
No, dude, we got a Costco order, and like I'm always surprised by how much food that I order. And then by the time next Friday rolls around, I'm like, where the fuck's all our food? And I'm like, oh, I know where it is. It's either muscle or fucking shit.
Yep.
Literally. Muscles or shit. There's no in between.
I feel that. I spend.
Speaking of feeling, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
I'm good. Like I said, I'm in an interesting phase with training right now that I like feel like I'm relearning a lot of things because I still, I don't know if it's permanent. I'm hoping it's not, but we'll see. I still don't have feeling to my foot. So anything I'm doing, I feel great engagement on my left side and like nothing on my right. And initially I was like, okay, well, let's do some unilateral stuff, but it doesn't feel quite stable enough for unilaterals.
Yeah.
So we're slowly building things back up. The biggest thing I'm noticing is like just having to redirect everything because my leg wants to go inward, just for lack of feel or whatever. So we're getting there. I also, in an off season trying to grow and
Not
is
growing.
pretty natty. So we'll go with that, pretty natty.
Yeah.
I've been
Natty enough.
pretty well. I've been on HRT and I've been on
Yeah,
HRT.
natty plus.
Oh,
Natty plus.
only not even. I'm not even on plus anymore. I pulled my test down to 4, so before it was at 6. And I've been like that for like almost 3 months now. So it's been
Yeah.
so yeah, we are feeling that for sure, but feeling better slowly. I'm 1 week out from becoming a mom times 2. And
People are gonna be like, Laura's pregnant.
no, we're getting a puppy. And then like I was saying to you earlier, I'm on my period for the first like real period besides like just like spotting and then it disappears since competing. So yeah.
All right, take 2, electric boogaloo. Hopefully this works. But yeah, so you said you got your period kind of back, and maybe that helped lowering your testosterone to kind of help with that. What do you think?
Well, a couple things. So initially, when I was going back and forth with the HRT clinic, they had told me to start supplementing with DHEA, which worked a little too well because my DHEA went from like a 12 to a 300 and something. And that
Wow.
was, which I was shocked by from like an over the counter fucking Amazon supplement. That didn't make any sense to me.
What was
So
the dosage?
25. And it like skyrocketed.
That's
And
pretty crazy.
yeah, to the point that like I was noticing little dark fucking hairs popping up, but I stopped taking it, and as soon as I stopped taking it, it went away. However, of course, when I did my labs almost 7 weeks ago now, it was 2-3 days after I fucked up my back, so like everything was red flagged. And then I go and get my labs done yesterday, and literally as I'm leaving, I go to the bathroom and have my period. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? That's another 300 and whatever dollars wasted because none of my hormones are going to be accurate either because everything will be lower than it would have normally been. But
Yeah.
hormone wise, they were fine the first time. So we're just going to do a combined, this is a combined analysis.
Yeah. Well, I
Go.
mean, hey, like you win some, you lose some, I guess. But at the end of it, like I think it is important to talk about like being on HRT, like a true HRT, TRT type of deal.
Yes.
Where it's like because you're adding in outside hormones that will impact inside hormones in the same way that you get on birth control, whether like a contraceptive, IUD, or an oral contraceptive, like that's going to impact your innards. You know what I'm saying? And I do think there's a lot of fear mongering where it's like, if you go on TRT, especially, like you can't have babies, you
Right.
know? And I know it's like one of those things where it's like, it's the abuse. And it's also like, what was your hormonal profile like before hopping on HRT or TRT? But I think this is like near and dear to your heart, especially because you do have fertility goals and you also like want to be successful in bodybuilding.
Yeah. And honestly, that's something that I still even now fight back and forth with. Um, but it's always the half of me that's like, okay, well, in the exact moment of right now of my life, I'm not, baby isn't right now. And then the other side of me is like my career, my enjoyment, my all the things is bodybuilding. So I'm trying
Mhm.
to have the most moderate approach towards bodybuilding that doesn't fuck up my fertility goals in all honesty. And
Mhm.
that's part of why, even by via labs having my testosterone at 6 was within, good ranges, but I did question knowing the fact that that is heightened for me from, what I actually need for testosterone.
Mhm.
So, it had been a while that I was doing that, then I brought it back down to 4, and, I noticed a big difference
Mhm.
between strength, energy, sex drive, um, all of the things, but I think it in, like, the health perspective was the right
Mhm.
decision. Um, it's not a forever decision, but a for right now. Because knowing with all that was going on with my leg, like I didn't want anything like super physiological because I want to be able to feel what's happening so I don't get hurt.
Mhm.
Uh, so that was my intentions with that, and the fact that I hadn't had a menstrual cycle in 9 months.
Mhm.
I'd get like a spotting for a day, and then it would go away. And I
Mhm.
don't want to go through what I did already. That I lost a period for 7 years. Um, even doing all the things right, even this time around, this is longer than it should have taken with where my calories at, where my body fat is at, where my intensity is at, where my, all total physical
Mhm.
expenditure, all the things that are where they've been in the past, and I was still able to have a period. So that was the next adjustment, and I'm guessing was the right adjustment because then shortly after I got my period back.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, like, even before you decide to go on TRT, like, not yes, checking, like, where your internal hormones are at in terms of just, like, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, also adrenal function, but then also the signaling hormones, so, like, FSH, LH, because that's one of those things, if you're not, like, consistently ovulating, like, pre-TRT, you're likely not gonna have ovulation, like, after TRT until, like, that root cause gets impacted, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But at the end of it, it's like that's why we talk about, preparing the body to receive hormones in terms of like liver health and gut health. Because if you're dumping hormones into a body in a system that's not ready for hormones, it can make things a hell of a lot worse. And plus, then it's like we're also thinking about like injection care and all of that stuff as well. And while it's really good that we're having more open, honest conversations, I do still think there's a lot of fear mongering where women don't need testosterone. And if you go on test, you're going to become a dude. But that's not true, right? Now, if you abuse it, yeah, it's going to be causing that viralization. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely going to have that like HPO axis suppression too. And so it is something where, like, there is a conversation to be around, like, alterations and temporary suppression, especially if you're on, like, a PED cycle versus, like, true dysfunction going in where, like, your TRT dose is just quite frankly too high, and it's causing that downstream regulation that, altering that upstream feedback and just causing issues all around.
I think a lot of time too, you can spot that from lab work, even if your hormone levels are within range, you'll start seeing lipids be skewed, liver be skewed, like you were mentioning. I had a client that came to me at one point that was on like 15 milligrams of testosterone on her TRT, as her TRT. And the first thing I said to her, I was like, did you not realize that this was not actually TRT? Even, I don't care where you are in your journey of hormones. And her on paper, hormones were extremely high, but then you look at everything else and they're everything's skewed.
Yeah,
So when you know
absolutely.
it's time to call it a day.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's, like, important to talk about starting dosages, which I know we did in another podcast, but just to reiterate, like, you know,
Wild.
like 4 milligrams a week if you're doing injectable, that's a great starting point. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were already doing, like, 10, like, that's a pretty heavy, and granted, some women might need that depending upon their suppression, how they metabolize it, their physique goals, like, whatever, but the starting point should be lower so you can assess and then do follow-up lab work 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 4 to 8 weeks, depending upon, the mode of delivery for your testosterone or your HRT, quite frankly. But if it's causing more issues than it's solving, given enough time and enough, especially lifestyle adjustments, that's when it's really important to open up that conversation with, your TRT, HRT provider, your coach, whoever is recommending these supplements and these hormones.
For sure. I think that it's also important to make sure that whoever you're going to for your HRT, TRT, whatever, is a reliable source. And by
Mhm,
reliable, not just that what you're getting is real or whatever, but reliable as though they'll tell you genuinely what you need as
mhm.
opposed to what's going to make them money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is also kind of like the other maybe barrier to entry when it comes to, like, yes, you were working with doctors or clinicians and they should be giving you what you need. But since it's also a business, it's like they might be giving you more than you need. Because you're a customer, you drive business. If you feel better with more, that's going to be a great, like, referral for them or a testimonial, like whatever the fuck. But I think it is important to also kind of get into, like, if you are enhanced, then you completely ruin your fertility. And at the end of the day, are you causing risk there? Yes, absolutely, you are causing risk. Like, I don't want this podcast to be like, oh, if you go on stuff or especially use enhancements outside of just normal replacement, that there's not going to be some impact because there absolutely could be. Right. But Laura is a great testimony to where you can kind of have shit hormonal health but then get that restored through years of work when it comes to lifestyle adjustments, some hormonal replacement, as well as like therapy. But I'm also very outspoken. The fact that I hopped on stuff way too early at a time that my body was not ready to receive hormones, and I have had a period since. But I'm also not too concerned since I am on full hormone replacement and I don't have fertility goals. Now, if things changed, I would communicate with my HRT provider about, like, wanting to jumpstart and restart kind of like my hormonal access and doing the right steps to going there. So it's not like an end all be all, but you do have to understand what you're asking of yourself. Maybe in your 20s, if you decide to, like, hop on that bandwagon and maybe you don't always want to be this way or look this way, or feel this way, however, you're using your HRT, TRT in your 30s and 40s. You know what I'm saying? So, like, think about early on, not just about what you want temporary, but like what you truly want your life to look like when you're maybe removed from the sport of bodybuilding or whatever the fuck.
I think that that's a really, really good point. And honestly, Ashley and I had a conversation about this the other day off air. And I see a lot of younger women, and I kind of look at myself as like a grandma in bodybuilding for the fact that I'm 38, and Ashley's 28. Mine is she 28 as well?
I'm 29. So
29.
mine,
Sorry,
mine
had
is, yes, yeah, mine is a little bit
okay.
younger. So I'll be 30 next year.
But I just think of my own life 10 years ago and my goals and, reservations with things and honestly reality of actually experiencing things are very different than what they are currently. And it's that, saying hindsight's 2020, and it's very much true when it comes to bodybuilding because, we all love this now and we'll all
Mhm,
probably be active within the fitness realm of things of training in the gym and eating well and whatever far after our competitive bodybuilding years. But the things that will follow you are, infertility, viralization, things that are irreversible and you likely won't want once you are no longer a bodybuilder. And so, I strongly express for anyone that's listening to this to really, really sit down and think about that.
mhm.
And whether you're working with, one of us or a different coach or whatever, like have a a set conversation of like, these are my non-negotiables. I don't want to experience this. I don't want to chance this. Like, you need that on paper, not in a prep, because I'll promise you there hasn't been a prep that I've done yet that I haven't said, I don't care. I just want to fucking be great and win and look this way. And then I get out of that like stage of being so far in it that I look at like, oh no, I definitely didn't want any of that. And thank God I have close friends and a fiance and all that know my goals and, comfort level, because I am very much that person that will just keep pushing things because I want to be successful, but that is not a long-term right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like when you get in that state of prep or even enhancements, like it does enhance and change some of your brain chemistry and can alter your decision making process to some extent, right? Because it's like you get not addicted, because I'm not saying it has like addictive qualities like, other drugs, but you do maybe like the way that you look or like the way that you feel, and like that can feel addictive in nature, right? So it can make coming off of like a PED cycle harder because you were worried about maybe getting softer or not hitting PRs in the gym or not growing muscle. But it's like it is important to do that as a woman and to not be running cycles year round and to have proper recovery time and to get labs pre and labs post, right? No matter if you're running a cycle for 6 to 8 weeks or 12 to 16, depending upon if you go kind of like heavier in total milligrams on a shorter basis, or if you kind of do the low and slow type of deal. It really just depends on, like, what you think is best or what your coach thinks is best, whatever. But how quickly does your period return or hormone stabilize post-compound usage? That's also important to track between cycles, but then also consider your age, right? So, like, to take Laura, for example, perhaps it took a little bit longer, maybe because it was the TRT dosage that was a bit too much for her, but also considering all the other, like, life changes and stressors and the fact that she is getting older, we are all getting older, maybe she just wasn't as resilient. And so maybe that's data for her that, hey, I just need to do something a little bit different, or maybe have a dip ferret supplement in play, for example, to help restart her normal functioning.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it would have come back a little bit sooner if the since October hasn't been had has as it has been. Um,
Mhm,
but who's to know for sure? But that's just kind of I was starting to have symptoms as though I was to be starting a period, and I'm not all one away. So who knows?
mhm. Yeah. Let's kind of talk about maybe some of the supplements to help with periods restoring after like a PED cycle. Like I think a big one that the industry knows is like chaseberry,
Mhm.
right? To kind of help with that LH signaling to get progesterone back on board. There are other things in terms of just supporting, quite frankly, overall like mineral status and vitamin status, because that's something where you are utilizing more when you're enhanced. And then obviously thinking about the energy that it takes to clear those hormone and their metabolites out of the system when it comes to the liver and gut health, namely. But just quite frankly, I think a big thing is making sure that you're still at a body fat that is healthy enough to, tell your body, hey, we're good to kind of jump things back online, and making food availability also in a good spot. Because as females, like, we are asking a lot of ourselves with our goals and our aspirations, training in the gym, using enhancements, all the other life stressors that we have on our plate and on our shoulders. Like we always talk about stress, and it's like stress is that key variable that will kind of tell your body, hey, we're good, or hey, we got some work to do.
For sure. Yep. And unfortunately, us as women specifically think we can handle all of the things and do all the things and push all the things. And then your body says, hey, guess what? We can't. And then you're stuck with no choice but to start taking a step back until you can get yourself to a healthy position. I just
Hmm.
had a conversation yesterday with a client who hasn't had a cycle in quite some time, but wants to run marathons. And that's a conflicting approach slash interest at the same time, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, you eventually have to make a decision on what's more important to you.
Yeah, because that is the thing where it's like we want all of these things, and there are some competitors, like some IFBB pros, where dude they can run the PEDs, they can and do multiple preps, and their hormonal status is just resilient. Like they were made for fucking birthing babies. You know what I'm saying? And then there's someone where it's like the minute that you get into prep, that perceived stress and maybe some physical stress, their body's like, fuck no. No
Mm,
kids, no babies, no periods, right? And it's like, I get being like, well, so and so did it, but you aren't so and so. You don't
yep.
have so and so's genetics. They're whatever. But that doesn't mean that we do things reckless because, oh, your fertility health is already trash. Let's just fuck it up even worse. It's like just
Yeah.
understanding that your situation, your context is unique to you and doing things smart and as healthily as possible for you and your goals. But again, understanding that that might look different. Right. And I think that is just an important thing to say. I know it might seem like no duh, but we do get caught up on this comparison on Instagram where it's like, oh, we see our favorite Instagrammer, pro, whatever, like having periods of peak week. And we're like, well, how the fuck do you figure that out? And then it's like, oh, I'm, 20 weeks in prep and haven't had a period for 10 weeks, you know?
I would say that I would also say that it is even dependent per prep. This time around, I lost my period pretty quickly. The last show makes sense out of this. Last show that I did 3 years ago, that I was like emaciatedly skinny.
Hmm.
I had a prep the entire friggin' I had a period the entire prep, never lost it.
Hmm. And kind of going back to what I said earlier, you would have been 35, now you're 38.
Yep.
Maybe your body just doesn't have the recovery. And again, that's not like a failing. It's not that Laura fucking sucks. It's just her body isn't nearly as resilient. And that happens to all of us. And so that just merely means that we like make note of that and maybe have better supplements in play to restart it. Maybe a conversation with the HRT clinic, like whatever. But I do think it is as women, especially if we have health anxiety, that we view it as a personal failing that if things don't come back online immediately when we think they should, that it makes us feel less inadequate because, well, so and so got their period back like the minute they started reversing, and me, like it's been like 12 weeks. Now, if it is something where your period recovery is taking longer than I would say like 3, 4 months post, especially dieting from prep, you should be getting lab work anyway, but like definitely get lab work to see like, hey, truly what's going on. Is it is there some type of signaling error? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Like, is your life still very, very stressful, even though, reversed in prep? Maybe you butched your reverse and your recovery diet, and that needs to be addressed. Like there are so many different avenues, and unfortunately, we can't go through every single scenario because that would take forever, and we quite frankly would miss stuff. But don't do what I did and just kind of like, we'll figure it out. Because, like, truthfully, I didn't know any better, but at the end of the day, that doesn't make it any better because it was still my responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Is I didn't do my research. I didn't care enough about my health. I only cared about how I looked and how I performed, um, like physically and then obviously on socials. And that's me.
Listen, ladies, I get it. I know it is quite a pain in the ass to have a period. We're happy in a sense when we don't, but that'll bite you in the ass later on when you're fucking decrepit, and your bones are breaking. So let's try to avoid that.
Yeah. And
You know,
truthfully, like,
we're
there
safe.
is also a conversation to be said about like how like women are also entering into menopause earlier because of life stressors, but also like environmental stuff, which is why like it is just so important to get lab work, even if you're just like not considering PEDs or HRT, like just get lab work anyway. Like you're a human being, but like your body is not this perfect fluid system. Like it gets exposed to crap on a daily basis. So like just do your due diligence and take care of yourself. Don't just like be an ostrich and bury your head in the sand. Like truthfully, like acknowledge how you interact in your life and how your body responds to what you do or don't do. And if you have that information, maybe it encourages you to make a decision to take better care of your body. Because again, at some point, we're all aging and we're all dying, but we don't want to add insult to injury by speeding that shit up because we're neglecting ourselves.
Morbid. We're all dying.
I mean,
True.
literally, we are. Like, we're not fucking Benjamin Button. Have you seen that movie where he like ages backwards? Dude, he's
No.
born a old ass man where his shit's like ossified, and then like the way that he dies is he dies when he's a baby. Like it's you know what? It was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. But it was definitely like one of those where if you have a thing with age, like if you have like if age is like aging, kind of like brings you stress and overwhelm, which it kind of does for me. Like I feel like this movie puts it into good perspective no matter what. Because it's
Mm.
like at some point, yeah, maybe you're aging in reverse and you might look more youthful when like your wife is old and decrepit, but like you're still losing people nonetheless, right? So it makes you realize that the people that you are losing are worth loving in the meantime. So I don't know. I thought it was a really good movie.
Aging definitely freaks me out. I mean, it freaks me out for like not being at the point I want to be yet, and also freaks me out like as like my parents are in their my mom mid, dad late 70s, and all of it sucks. I
Yeah.
want to just pause things for a little bit.
Dude, absolutely. Or another movie that fucks you up, Click. And I know it's an Adam Sandler movie, so if you can
Yeah,
get over
yeah, yeah.
his acting, the core message is it that definitely like made me sob. And I was like early 20s or maybe even I don't know how old the movie is, but I know I was younger than I am now, and that movie made me sob because it was like how because of the anxiety and wanting to get through things and accomplish tasks, how you like end up fast forwarding your life and for what? And I was like, fuck, that's me.
Mm, yep. That's why they always say hindsight is 2020 when you get to the point where you realize that the times that you should have tried to be present and enjoy and all the things, it's too late.
Yeah. But we digress. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, like coming back to PEDs, periods, and like fertility health, like understand the long-term implications. That does not like this is not to fearmonger you that you're going to become an infertile myrtle if you hop on HRT or TRT. It
Right.
is just a caution that what you want when you are in your 20s and quite frankly maybe even early 30s will have some alterations the longer you are on and the older that you get, right? And if you are of the menopausal age where like obviously childbearing years is past you and you're not worried about it, like again, make sure you're getting labs drawn to make sure that your body is ready to receive these hormones, making sure your systems like your liver, your gut health are as good as can be, and then like introduce hormones. I'm not saying that like everything has to be perfect because that'll never happen. It needs to be the best in terms of your internal health for you and what that looks like. But don't be oversold or upselled more hormones because you think that's going to be like better results or better feelings. Like maybe that could be true, but also it could be not true.
Yeah, I would actually say that if you're overprescribed what isn't accurate for you, you'll most likely feel worse than better. And always be an advocate for yourself because just because, X, Y, and Z is recommended, it doesn't mean it's right for you.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know Laura is like a big on that just because like her dosage, quite frankly, is weird. But
Mm,
it doesn't matter that it's weird. It's right for her
yeah.
because she
And
felt weird on. Go ahead.
it felt weird. I got a brand new car, and as soon as I had a period, I like literally bled out on my friggin' driver's seat. And I was like, okay, this is not normal. Because
It's like that scene from Carrie where it's just like all the the pig's blood.
I was so pissed. I had the car for a fucking week.
Didn't
That
even have seat covers on, dog.
no, nope. I was so mad. Anyways, get
I'm
along.
sure. I'm sure. But yeah, I think like that was a great conversation. It's like just ask questions, be an advocate for yourself, gain as much information as you possibly can understand. Like I'm not saying you need to be an expert on like fucking glucuronidation. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you need to understand every like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 like liver and GI detox. I'm not saying you need to know so much where it overwhelms you and kind of paralyzes you from making a decision, but gather information maybe from multiple people that you trust, like get referrals because like you want to make sure it's the right decision for you and your, bodybuilding career, your physical health, your mental health, like whatever the fuck because the benefits of like HRT and TRT are not just about like muscle and looks, right? It's about like hormonal health, mental health, bone health, like Laura said. Like these things, like there's a reason why we have hormones. You know what I'm saying? They're not to be feared, but it's making sure that these hormones are in the right dosages in the right, times of the month for whatever the fuck for what it is that you want out of your life and making sure that you are a good steward of your health and doing what makes sense and not just quote unquote taking the easy route because I'll just hop on TRT and it'll fix everything because maybe but probably not.
No. And when it comes to your HRT prescription, prescription, if you want to say, it should be a collaborative consideration of what your labs look like and how you feel, not just one or
Hmm.
the other.
Yes, because like obviously if you are feeling absolutely crappy, like let's say you get on HRT where it's TRT, you're on testosterone and estrogen, right? But then you start feeling super freaking anxious and you're not having periods, or your periods are super heavy and it tanks your progesterone, like, speak up, right? Don't feel like you're bothering your clinic or bothering your coach. Cause, like, yes, these things do take time to regulate and normalize. But again, like, after a certain leeway and grace period, if things are not getting better and they're getting drastically worse, like, pull out the detective magnifying glass and, like, see what's up, right? Because I think that is so important where, especially women, we, like, don't want to feel like a bother, or we're feeling really crappy, but we've, like, felt crappy in the past. So it's kind of like you just excuse it as, like, oh, I'm just going to feel crappy again. It's like, don't be afraid to, like Laura says, be an advocate and speak up.
I think a realistic timeline to like get your HRT, TRT, whatever you want to call it, within an appropriate range is like 3 to 4 months. Like go into that with that like mental state of like, okay, it's not going to be perfect right out of the gate. It's going to take most likely a little bit of, toggling with. After that, like if you're still not being in a position, being guided towards a position that you feel is appropriate, maybe you need to look in a different direction.
Hmm. Absolutely. But that's all I got in terms of this conversation. Anything else that you want to add? Final notes?
That's it.
Yeah. So I think recap, like, don't just go on thinking it's a miracle fix, because while it could fix things in terms of like whatever is being like deficient or not made properly, it can also cause a whole host of issues when it comes to getting a period back post anabolics PED cycles. Like, it's also going to likely take time, but monitor lab work pre and post, monitor your body's recovery, monitor how you feel. Hopefully you have a coach doing that, or at least taking into account your biofeedback, or your HRT clinic is like on it. And if not, find someone who will, right? Because I promise you, like, we're out there. We are like good clinics, good practitioners, good coaches. Um, it's
Good
just
collaborations.
the collaborations. Yes, absolutely. Right. Like, it is something where it's like you want the right people in your corner, and you want to make sure that they're going to do right by you, but also keep you level headed. Because again, especially like when it comes to full blown cycles, it can be like, ooh, I like this. But God, you just got to be careful because it's hormones, right? It's hormones with, like we talked about earlier, can be permanent results, and that those permanent results isn't just muscle tissue.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. What's going on? Anything fun you're looking forward to over the weekend?
Not so much this week, actually. I was just thinking that as we were talking, but we get the puppy next Friday.
Hmm.
So it may either have to be you and Mina, or because we got to drive to go get him. Or if you guys can do a different day, I could do that too.
Let's get in WhatsApp and just figure it out. Because if she
Cool.
can do it, great. I can be flexible. And if not, it'll just be a Mina and Ash episode, just like it was Laura and Ash.
We're going to get Moose.
Gonna get Moose. Yeah, so it's gonna be Moose and Bunny, which I
Yep.
think is so cute.
Yeah. All
Cool.
righty. Well, lovely chatting as always.
Yes. Love you bunches. And guys, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Toodles. Stop it.